Good morning. It is a joy to be back with you again. I was away this past weekend, and I understand that you had a rocking good time with Reverend Ogenholder. Those of you who are here, I understand that the band impromptu accompanied him and brought the whole roof of the building up a few feet with affirming in a powerful way our 5 unity teachings. God is, I am, I create it, I pray, and I live it. And so I listened to it, and I watched it on our website. So if you've missed it like me, you can always go back and see it. And I have to tell you, the introvert in me was so glad I was away. I was like, Lord, He made everybody sing. What about those people who don't like to sing? And yet, what we know in life is that we need both of those things. We need those places where we express out and share and give joyful thanks. And we need time where we can become quiet, still, and listen. So that's what I was doing last weekend. Well, at least that's what I intended to do last weekend. I love it when I've gone away on spiritual retreat and I come back, and whether it's the staff or an email, people say, so, did you get any divine revelation while you were away? Well, you know, I did, actually. I did. One of the things that I did was I played a game called the Transformation Game. It's actually a board game, and it takes 8 hours. I know you got to have dedication to transformation to play that, right? And twice in this 8-hour game, a single card from a deck of over 150 cards appeared. And I loved it because it came first for another player in the game. At the very end of the game, you then take a card from several different topics, if you will. And those cards are to set you on your path of implementing whatever transformation you experienced in this 8-hour game. It's what you're supposed to take with you. It's your takeaway. I got that same card as a takeaway. And here's the wisdom. I realize that it's okay, that it's taking as long as it takes. So that was my divine revelation. Because, you know, I've tried to change that card all week long. I'm at peace with it taking as long as it takes. That wasn't the card. No, it's I realize it's okay that it's taking as long as it takes. For you see, I went away on spiritual retreat, and I had this plan, and I had a timeline. Let me tell you about the first 30 minutes. Are you ready? I arrive at the cabin in the mountains to a gate that has a key that I know goes in that lock, but the lock has had water up inside of it, and it's frozen. No gate to get up the hill to the cabin. So we go up to the top of the cabin, to the top of the hill to the cabin, turn on the electricity and the water in this cabin. Don't you know it? Out at the pump, out in the side of the yard, a busted water pipe. So the water's going everywhere like a fountain, but it's not getting inside. So we go back down to the bottom of the hill, and we're like, okay, let's get our cars, and we're going to need to find another plan for this weekend. My friend's car, it won't start. And honey, that's just the first 30 minutes. I realize that it's okay, that it's taking as long as it takes. Right? Years ago, and on the 3rd day of this event, I would have gone into, I'm really done. Let me just go home and not do this. There's nothing that I must need to know from out there or in here that I need to walk through this for. But that particular day, I don't know, I'd had a good night's sleep or something, I don't know. I just said, well, okay. What are we going to do now? And isn't that just like life? Life gives us many opportunities to simply go, well, what are we going to do now? And sometimes, when we're really quiet and we can step back just a little more, another question to be with is, what am I going to be now? So in that moment, I heard this little voice in my head. Well, several months ago, you decided that it would be good for everyone at Unity of Gaithersburg to read The Untethered Soul. So let's see how untethered your soul really is. We are in the midst of beginning, as a community, at doing an experience of small groups where we can dig a little deeper into some of the contents in this book, The Untethered Soul. And I do invite you to consider, if you've not signed up for one of those groups, to at least consider coming on Wednesday nights here to the sanctuary, where if we have enough folks, we'll break out into some smaller groups within ourselves. This book really asks us to step back and look. To step into an awareness of our soul awakening, even if we think our soul has awoken every year for the last 30 years. It's once again asking us to look at an awakening consciousness within ourselves. And so this morning, I invite you to consider some of the thoughts that are in this part 1. And know that if you choose to dig into it even more, whether you can be part of the group or not, our study guide is going to be online at our website. And perhaps there are even some copies in the back in the foyer. Because the questions of really asking ourselves, who am I? And digging that a little deeper to who is thinking the thoughts I'm thinking? Where are the thoughts that I'm thinking coming from? Shifts our awareness of what's going on outside of ourselves to what's going on inside of ourselves. So let me say that another way. Eckhart Tolle writes in his book, A New Earth, give up defining yourself. Give up defining yourself to yourselves and to others. You won't die. You will come to life. And don't be concerned with how others define you. For what they define you, they are limiting themselves. And so it's their problem. Whenever you interact with people, don't be there primarily as a function or a role, but as a field of consciousness presence. You can only lose something you have, but you cannot lose something you are. You can only lose something that you have. You cannot lose something that you are. That's an invitation to take a step back and to ask, what am I here to be in any given moment? Mahatma Gandhi said it another way, and he was actually taking some liberties with a Vedic scripture from the Hindu writings. Gandhi said, carefully watch your thoughts, for they become your words. Manage and watch your words, for they become your actions. Consider and judge your actions, for they have become your habits. Acknowledge and watch your habits, for they shall become your values. Understand and embrace your values, for they become your destiny. He never says, you are your thoughts. And Michael Singer, as the author of this book, invites us in an awakening consciousness to get very, very clear that we are not the thoughts we think. Now, perhaps in your mind right now, there's a little thought going, yay, I'm not the thoughts I think. Or there's a thought in your head going, what's she talking about? She doesn't know. I am absolutely clear that what happened the other day at my job is exactly what happened. Wow, See how the body and the energy of the body gets so invested in that thought? I love it when the author Michael Singer says, when we identify with our thoughts so intently and in such a committed way, we are just like a tea kettle setting on the stove with our little hole in the top about to whistle. Because we need to release the energy in that thought. He doesn't say we're the kettle. He doesn't say we're the water. He doesn't say we're the steam. There is energy within us at all times. And when we so identify with our thought that we have an emotional reaction, we have an internal conviction, we've just become so close to the situation. It's like when we were kids. Do you remember ever sitting really close to the TV? I mean, I'm talking before there was HD TV. We only got 2 channels at my house because we lived in rural North Carolina. I would just be like this. I'm sure it wasn't really Captain Kangaroo, but in my scenario right now, I'm this close to Captain Kangaroo. Because as a kid, I wanted to be able to be in that story. You know what I'm saying? We're so close to it, we want to be in it. And my mother would say, sit back from the TV. There's a reason the couch is on the other side of the room. I think she said something like, you're going to go blind or something. Yeah. See, I'm not the only one. Well, are we blind to the bigger picture and to the truth story in our life when we're that close to our thought? We all have days where we want it to be a different way. The thoughts in our mind, the chatter, want it to be a different way. And many of us have spent a long time knowing that if it could just be the way this voice over here says it's supposed to be instead of the way it is. Let me try that one again. If we can just acknowledge this is the way it is, but this is the better way, and I want to make this one happen, we are still so close to the story, dancing in dualism. We're dancing in, well, I don't like it this way. I want it to be this way because this is the good way. And we think that if we are in alignment with the good way or the good thought, that now we're okay. This morning and over the next 6 weeks, I hope this rocks your world. Because the way it is, or the way we wish it is, are not the thoughts of who we are. We are neither one. We're not the bad thought. We're not the good thought. We are the one who is observing the thoughts. We're the witness. And it's when we stand in this witness role that we can have a realization. And part of that realization is that we are more than our bodies, and we are more than our thoughts. And how many of us have spent time looking for that moment of transformation, like intending to play the transformation game and having a great aha? Yeah? There's a character in the New Testament scriptures that his name was originally Saul. And Saul was a character who, as we understand it, probably was very sure that he was on the right side of the law. And he was going to take care of those followers of Jesus. He was going to go and find them and persecute them. That's what the scripture reads in Acts. So Saul was on the road to Damascus, and he had an experience where there was an epiphany, a flash, a vision. And he heard a voice which said, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? And so the story is written that he sees an image of Jesus. And then he sees nothing for 3 days. Those that he is with take him, and a man named Ananias comes to him places his hands on his eyes, and his sight is restored. And he realizes that all he'd been identifying with of the right answer, the good way, the legal way, the Roman way, was part of who he was in the past, his personality, his very strong-willed self. And through an experience of transformation, of realization, of being blind for 3 days, he wakes up to his true nature. And his name is changed to Paul. And Paul is credited as being the author of many of the New Testament scriptures. One of the commentaries I recently read about Paul, and I love this, is that for some of us who learned some of Paul's teachings as a child, you might be surprised to hear this as well. Paul never claimed to himself be divine. And so his writings were only from his perspective. His writings were only a reflection of how close to the situation he was. And so just like you or I, it's how we see it and how we interpret it and how the voice in our head tells us the story of it that we decide whether it's okay or not. That we decide whether it's okay that it's taking as long as it's taking. Whether it's 3 days of being blind, whether it's 2 years of a physical experience, whether it's 15 years of a troubled relationship. And see, even in the way our words are designed, I used a troubled relationship. Maybe it's just a 15-year relationship that's taken the course it needs to take. Can we be like the child watching television and step back? See the whole room. See more of what's happening. Notice the thoughts without choosing a side. Be the witness. Perhaps we will have an experience where we will wake up and remember our true nature in an even more profound way than we do in this very moment. For here's why I keep coming to a Unity Church. We have a core teaching that it is the divine potential within us that we are here to live, breathe, and have our being as. It's not I am divine right here and right now. What you see is what you get. It's there's divine potential within me. So I peel away another layer. I allow my personal human will to relax and let go so that that which is my eternal who I am can stand forward. I invite you on the journey with me this week. Grab the study guide. Read some of the questions. Answer them for yourself. Come to one of our groups. Let's all untether our soul. Namaste.